we go. All right. So I'm Susan Randall, a member of the League of Women Voters of Washtenaw County, and on behalf of this juvenile justice team, I want to welcome you to today's learning session. The League of Women Voters, a couple of things about us. We're a nonpartisan voter education organization. We are engaged in active participation in government. The League does not support candidates or political parties, but we do take positions on issues that we have studied. One such policy area is the Justice for Kids and Communities Act, which the League supported and which passed the state legislature and signed by the governor in 2023. Implementation is underway across our county and the state. With us today to learn more about this work is Kevin Mitchell, Director of Washtenaw County's Children's Services, President of the Michigan Juvenile Detention Association, and a co-chair of the Michigan Detention Standards Subcommittee of the Residential Advisory Group. Kevin has 26 years of experience working with youth in residential care. He came to Washtenaw County in 2001, where he held numerous positions in the Children's Services Department before becoming its director in 2020. Kevin has a Bachelor of Social Work degree from Western Michigan University, a Master's in Public Administration from the University of Michigan, and is going to be joined today by Sarah Britton, the lead for Washtenaw County's new Youth Career Academy, and he will introduce Sarah. Following Kevin and Sarah's presentation, there will be a question and answer segment, and we're asking all of you participants, if you have questions, to submit them in the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. They will be monitored, and at the final segment of our learning session today, they will be read by Melanie McIntosh, one of our team members, and answered by Kevin and Sarah. All right, take it away, Kevin.
Thank you, Susan. Really appreciate that introduction. I do have Sarah Britton with me here today. Sarah is the program director for our Youth Academy. Sarah's been really instrumental in the design and the structure of the program and bringing her experience from running similar programs in Genesee County and in Ingham County. But I'll let Sarah unmute for a second. She wants to tell you a little bit more about her and her experience.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to be a part of the presentation today. I'm really excited. Any opportunity to just share best practices and what's happening in the field. It's been such a warm experience coming to Washtenaw County. We've been in operation here for just about a year, and I think we've had some really great highlights and some great success. We're hoping that you'll be excited about some of the movements happening in this county because of the new day treatment program. So you'll hear more about that after Kevin's presentation. I live in Genesee County, but my first job right out of college was here in Washtenaw County, so it feels really good to be back. I've been with Peckham for 24 years in the field. We also have a residential program in Ingham County for girls. It's one of the only gender-specific residential programs in the state. So we're really proud of that. But Peckham has been operating vocational services and vocational programs for court-involved youth since 1987. So we're really excited to share some of our strategies and our program design. So thank you for having me.
Thanks, Sarah. We do have some slides to follow along today. So Sarah, if you could pull up the agenda today, and then I'll hop right in. Awesome, thank you. So today, Sarah and I'm going to start out by talking about just some of the juvenile justice updates, just really a follow-up from the presentation last year on the MJAS or the OYAS. Just an update on the Residential Advisory Committee and some of our work, and then a new committee I've been working on, the Detention and Residential Work Group that just formed this fall. And then Sarah will hop right into the Youth Academy. So last time when I came, I talked about the MJAS, which was enacted into law October 1st, 2024. If you recall, if you were on the call previously, I discussed how kids typically came into the youth center on off hours. and had mentioned that that had changed now with the new MJAS coming in, which is a detention screener that assigns risk to kids, meaning low, medium, or high. In the past, when a young person was arrested and law enforcement would like to lodge them in the youth home, they'd have to call the youth home, and then we would do a three-way call from wherever law enforcement was with the youth, and they would call the judge or the referee, and then a decision from that point after talking to the officer would be made whether or not that young person was going to be lodged in the youth home. With the screener, things changed in our process a little bit. So now law enforcement brings the kids here, and we are able to screen the young people. So we screen them without law enforcement present, and we assign a risk level to them. Then we call the referee. The law enforcement officer will talk to the referee about why they want to lodge the youth and what the charges are. And then our staff let them know where they scored on the screener, the MJAS, which is low, medium, or high. So the screener was developed by the University of Cincinnati, which is known to have a lot of really good juvenile justice research and programming come out of it. I don't know if I would say that this was one of those, but the intended use for this originally is not for at the front door, but rather once kids are already in detention. So the state court administrative office had decided after having a committee and looking at a lot of different screeners for some time, they decided they wanted to use this screener, and they told us in early August last year that this was what their decision was. So we really had a short time to implement this, about 6 weeks in total. So I had to visit with a lot of local law enforcement. We had to have all of our staff trained on how to administer the screener and then work with our partners in the court as well. So it was a lot during a short duration, but just happy to say that we were able to take care of all of that before October 1. There have been a lot of concerns with the screener. It's only 6 questions, so it's not one that is very, very long, I think. Some of the questions came off a little biased. So one of those questions would be, would you have a family member? I had discussed this last year. Do you have a family member who's been previously arrested? Do you have anger issues? Do you have a negative attitude toward the JJ system? I think these are very, really subjective questions. The 2 latter questions are. So I think there was a lot of concern with all of us working in juvenile justice about that. The other 3 questions of the screener I think are good questions. They take a look at what the current charge is and the severity of the charge, the age of their first contact when they came in contact with police or law enforcement, and then how many times they've been arrested or lodged with us previously. So after about a year of this across the state, we have heard in a lot of different areas that this has increased the amount of kids coming into detention centers. And this is not the intention of having the screener. The idea was to assign a risk level to kids and to route some kids out from being. Other concern with it is the varied process in which the screen is being implemented. The state mandated the use of this detention screener. But they did not tell people how they were supposed to do it. So they left that to the individual counties and courts. The training at the University of Cincinnati, where they certified people, they had recommended that it's away from law enforcement, that it's done in person. And so here in Washtenaw County, we've adopted all of those recommendations. In other parts of the state, kids are on the phone in the back of a squad car, kids are on an iPad. So there's not really a consistent use of the tool. So I think that's been a concern as well. A little bit of data on our end after 1 year. And some of the results here were not surprising on where our screening results came out just for Washtenaw County. I just put an asterisk down there. We take kids from all over the state here in this detention center, but this is just our data for Washtenaw County. Our low-risk kids came in about 1 at 6, about 14%, and medium and high risk both at 43%. It wasn't surprising that the majority of kids were rated low risk. I think law enforcement here realizes what they're going to be lodging kids on most times or not, and so a lot of the kids that we do have coming to us probably have more of a serious charge. This isn't a county or a court that detains a lot of kids in general, and so I wasn't surprised to see that low risk came in at 40%. In terms of where those risk levels came in and who was lodged, low risk was about 50-50. So about 50% of the kids were immediately released and 50% lodged. Medium risk, about 3 3/4 of the kids were lodged About 1 in 4 were immediately released. And then high-risk kids typically were kept here. So a little bit about that. What I would say is on both of those ends, for a lot of the medium kids, about 25% of those kids being released, in addition to 50-50 on the low risk kids, what we saw is almost just a slightly increased amount of kids attempting to be lodged in the youth center. But in general, with the screener, from 23 to 24, all the way to 24, 25, with using the screener over the past 12 months, we saw a 28% decline locally in kids coming into our detention center from Washtenaw County. So while there are some concerns with the screener, I will say that some of the medium risk kids and some of the low risk kids that ordinarily I think probably would have been lodged have not been lodged. So I think that's a really good thing. And, having less kids come into the detention center is a good thing as well. So just really happy with those numbers. After about a year, the State Court Administrative Office, who had selected this tool, did take a lot of feedback. There was a little bit of media scrutiny on the tool as well. So they did announce that they will be seeking a different tool to be used moving forward. Unfortunately, that's not going to be a really quick process. I think we're about a year and a half out from that. So over the summer, they did have a request for proposal to look at different screeners. Indiana has a great screener. Florida has a wonderful screener that they developed in partnership with Annie E. Casey. So there are other screeners out there that are more thorough and that are evidence-based. So I'm hoping that that's something we can implement and get everyone trained on and have to use here in the state of Michigan. So one of the expectations we were asking for the tool when we provided them feedback was, please have it be evidence-based. Is it being used somewhere else? And can we have enough lead time to train everyone in the state? That means probation officers, court personnel, detention operators. There's a lot of people to train. And with the implementation of the MJAS screener, it wasn't possible for everyone to be screened to be trained in that 6-week time. So the rollout was a little bit clunky. So we're hoping for a much better rollout this time around. So shifting gears a little bit, so that's the data with the MJAS. I do want to talk about, and I mentioned this last year, some of the work that I was able to do on the Governor's Residential Advisory Committee. The Residential Advisory Committee was born out of the, it was born out of the Governor's juvenile justice reform and those 32 recommendations. One of the recommendations was to reform residential services and detention. And so this group started meeting in July of 2023. I was able to co-chair one of the subcommittees along with the court administrator from Genesee County, whose name is Rhonda Im. The Residential Advisory Committee had 3 subcommittees to do work. First would be the case management group that really spent a lot of time on bed management. I'll talk about this a little bit more, a slide or two from this one, but we do have a bed crisis here in this state for detention beds and residential beds in general, and the waits are long. There was a residential placement committee, so looking at secure and non-secure and developing standards for kids and screening that are coming into residential placements. And then detention standards committee, which I helped co-chair. So I wish that I could tell you that this report had been released at this point. I wish I could say that we're really working towards a lot of the things that were recommended. But at this point right now, the state's been kind of sitting on this for about a year and a half. So our detention standards committee developed 70 pages of minimum detention standards, which is important to note because what I will tell you is we're lucky here in Washtenaw County to have a lot of resources. Other counties don't have the resources that we have, and so they don't have some of the services that our detention center has. So developing minimum standards in a detention means, do you have a doctor and a nurse on site? Do they have mental health? Do you have mental health practitioners there to work with kids? Another one is the lightning rod here for the state is the physical intervention and room confinement standards and guardrails around that. Positive behavior programming to implement just minimum standards for detentions that they all should be doing because not every detention center is the same. So, and a big piece of that also is the quality assurance process. We do have licensing and inspections, but licensing inspections doesn't doesn't go far enough, I don't feel, in terms of assessing programming. And then the oversight is another one that's been a concern. You know, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services does license us. And so there's been some discussion on shifting oversight with that group that was recommended. So I did talk to some folks in Lansing this past week, and I've been told that the executive summary will be released soon. And the work will be initially on the residential and case management committees, and then will be followed by the detention standards. So that's kind of where that is right now. I hope that I'm able to come back next year and tell you that some of those things that we had worked together so hard on for over a year are being implemented. Most recently, been as the president of the Michigan Juvenile Detention Association, have been taking part in a detention legislative work group that was really just formed at the end of summer, and we started meeting weekly this fall. So this work group is put together primarily in a response to some of the residential advisory committee kind of taking a little bit longer than it should. So I think there are some things that some legislators want to legislate and get done quickly. So this group is chaired by State Reps Sarah Leitner. I think her district is Calhoun County and Jackson County, parts of Jackson County. There's also a Republican John Roth, who is in Northwest Michigan and around the Grand Traverse area. So they're chairing this committee. They're both passionate about juvenile justice. And I think the group really wants to get some low-hanging fruit, some things that have got to get done now, and to get those things legislated. So our group includes the Michigan Association for Family Courts president, groups from MJDA, the Sheriff's Association president, the Michigan Associations of Counties representative. We do have a representative from courts, judge, the state probate court, and then the Northern Michigan Juvenile Officers Association, and then the Prosecutor Association. So we do have a pretty diverse group of folks working in juvenile justice to take a look at some things per se for low-hanging fruit, I guess, to kind of get done here in the next year, while some of those other things are rolled out a little bit slower. So big focus for us initially is the detention facility classification. Most people probably aren't aware. Detention centers in our state have two different entities that are overseeing them. The majority of them are court operated. So in some of these counties, the chief judge would be the one who oversees the detention center. There's a handful that remain that are licensed as child care institutions. And so the Board of Commissioners and the county administrator oversee that. So in our county, it's the Board of Commissioners and the county administrator. We're one of 6 remaining child care institutions that are licensed. So what we've seen in the past several years, because of some of the licensing changes, several of the county operators has been shifting over to court operated because the rules are different. So we're all doing the same thing, but we have different rules. So getting the secure detention all classified in one area is something that we want to do because we're all doing the same work, and hoping to implement some of the quality assurance standards and licensing rule revisions that were recommended by the Residential Advisory Committee. In addition to that, across the state, or rather across the country, I think it's been very difficult to recruit juvenile justice professionals. Not just in, residential centers or detention centers, but overall in general. I know our jail here also struggles with that. So I think the last time our facility was fully staffed was in 2021. So we were working really hard to bring really good people in, but we just don't have people that are going into this field that we had previously. So we do have a university that we're hoping to announce soon that we are working with in their criminal justice department. We would like to have a juvenile justice institute for new hires to where they could go to for their first 2 weeks, so they could learn about trauma-informed care, learn about adolescent brain development, just really get all the basics that they need before they come on site to get our training. So that is in the works as well. Other thing would be the bed management or the regionalization. There are 21 total court-operated and county-operated detention facilities in the state, and we do have 83 counties. So that already is going to cause a little bit of a log jam on what the needs are. So there's a lot of capacity issues going on right now. I was in a child welfare meeting with the state of Michigan last week, and they told us that at this point right now in their bed management system, there was less than 5 beds available last week. I think last week, over a 48-hour period, I took almost 20 phone calls to take kids. So our own detention center is at capacity right now, with leaving a few beds open for our own county. So we are trying to help out where we can, but there are just not enough beds at this point, or at least enough staff to staff the beds in some of these facilities. So again, 15 court operated facilities, 6 county operated. So the group would like to look at regionalizing some of these detention centers. I don't think that's something that our association or many counties have an interest in. I think they have their own capacity issues. So those of us that do take kids from out of county would like to form some kind of a collective in a way to be able to talk to some of these 83 courts or MDHHS and say, hey, we do have these beds available, and they will know who to call. So that's a system we're trying to work out. And then there's also a real issue in northern Michigan. There had been a detention center in northern Michigan that had been closed several years ago. It was in Roscommon. And what we see is now a lot of kids from the Upper Peninsula and northern Michigan that do need beds, and they don't have anything local to them. So there's nothing north of US 10. So the group is very interested in looking at possibly building a new facility. I don't think that's very popular. I wouldn't endorse that either. I don't know if we should be building infrastructure to take more kids into a secure environment. But there is a facility that was recently closed by the state of Michigan after multiple licensing violations. It was Shawano Center. It was operated by the state of Michigan. And so the group is kind of looking at what it would take to get that opened back up and get it operating so that some of the courts and MDHHS offices in northern Michigan would have a place to send some kids instead of shipping them down here. We've had several instances this year in our own detention center where we've taken kids from Dickinson County or from Iron County in the Upper Peninsula, and we're talking about 7, 8, 9-hour drives to get beds here. So, and that's kind of the update on my end between the Residential Advisory Committee, the MJAS data for the year, and just some of the legislative stuff that we're working on. I really hope I can come back with this group next year and talk about some of the things that we have accomplished. But I'll hand it off to Sarah now to kind of talk about the Youth Career Academy.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, so I'm going to share a little bit about the day treatment program, the Youth Career Academy in Washtenaw County. But before I do that, I want to just give a brief little background about Peckham and kind of how we came to be where we're at. And then we'll get into the program model of what we're practicing here in Washtenaw County. I want to share some of the court's perspective about the program and some of our community partners that help contribute to the success of this program model. So as I mentioned in the introduction, Peckham has been operating juvenile court services for court-involved youth, helping them with vocational services since 1987. And we have come a long way since 1987 with our approach and how we serve kids. When I first started at Peckham, this kind of scope or mindset was still in place where the court was referring kids to Peckham to just put them to work, basically give them something to do, get them a job and just help them be successful at the work site. Well, what we found is that that model obviously doesn't work. They may have been in compliance while they're under court jurisdiction, but as soon as their court or their probation was over, they would lose their job. They wouldn't have gained the skills that were needed to, maintain that and kind of transition without impacting recidivism. And their work experiences were limited too. When they first came to our program, they would just be put into clean and turn. It was like our class. So Peckham, we have contracts with the military, with the Department of Defense. We've expanded our business lines at Peckham to incorporate a farm now, a call center, a warehousing. So Originally, though, the job options were limited and students, were kind of bored. That's actually one of our students from years and years ago. That's when I first started, and she's on clean and turn. And what that means is she would just like trim threads from the garments that we were making. And it's kind of boring. So over time, I'm happy to say that our program model has really changed. Um, I think everyone on this call understands the analogy of an iceberg analogy. And historically, the court's approach and Peckham's approach was just addressing behaviors at the surface level. And over time, we really understand that most of the youth that are coming into the juvenile justice have a high prevalence of early and complex trauma. So there's a lot of things. Oh, I noticed there's a typo on there. Apology. But there's a lot of historical and compound traumas that are impacting their ability to make good decisions, to have appropriate conversations in the workplace and in a work setting. They also have a history of mental health and substance abuse. Um, and our kids now are still being impacted by the pandemic, from COVID, from isolation. And there's a lot of trauma that happened in the homes when they were not going to school. So those are things that we're trying to be cognizant of, and we're, understanding that the youth we're serving today were impacted by the pandemic. Also, we're incorporating the understanding of social media. This is a real issue that impacts our students. It's something that we professionals need to be aware of. A lot of our kids are having group chats after school. There is a lot of pressures to be present in social media and appear a certain way, often with violence and drugs on social media. We've also experienced an increase in violent crime. There's increased tension with law enforcement, increased dysfunction in the home, and lack of access to vital records. So understanding that our students are coming in with all this stuff coming into our program, it's not realistic to just shove them into a job. We have to do a lot of work to get them ready. And now our program structure is more in a phase model. So when they come to our day treatment program in Washtenaw County, we spend a lot of time understanding all of those things that are beneath the surface before we place them into a relevant and an actual career interest that they have the aptitudes for. So our program really focuses on, oh, there's Kevin, look at that. Um, we focus on a lot of elements that help them be successful. So we do incorporate the risk assessment, as Kevin was talking about. We look at the risk assessment to determine the length and likelihood of their success in the program. If students have a high risk score and their cluster type is really, really heavy in certain categories like mental health or education, we might take a little longer to see if this is the right fit for them in the program. So we really use those YLS assessments and incorporate the appropriateness of their placement here in the day treatment program. We also do goal development beyond just getting a job. So a lot of that incorporates, we partner here in the day treatment program with Washtenaw County ISD. So I see Jenna is on the call, which is an amazing partner. We also have CMH here on site. So we have fantastic partners that really complement the services here in the day treatment program. We focus on leadership, advocacy, monthly talent tours, mentoring, givebacks, and we have these standardized into all of our programs across all of our counties that we're in. We really over-index on strength-based approach. That's a picture of one of our former students who've completed and is working. But every month we have something called our level up ceremony, and we celebrate our students' success. So every month, the kids will be recognized for participating in our talent tours, giving back to the community, earning their points, earning their levels. And I mean, that smile says it all. These students aren't used to getting recognized for their achievements. We have done random calls home just to call their parents and be like, you would be so impressed with Jeremiah. He had a great day at school. And the parents are like, what, my kid? But that's so important for not only the family interactions at home, but also for our kids to view themselves differently. So we do incorporate evidence-based CBI. Kevin mentioned the University of Cincinnati. That associated with the evidence is the dosage hours. So our higher risk kids need higher dosage hours of CBI. CBI is a concept or a practice to help them with their thinking and new thinking patterns. So we do replacement thinking, behavior chains, and helping them learn and practice new skills that'll help them be successful. So our higher risk kids, they need more of those classes in order to complete the program, where our moderate and milder risk youth, based on evidence, have less dosage hours required. I'm really excited about our industry recognized credentials. We recognize that our students will have a huge advantage moving into the world of work if they have a stackable or industry recognized credential. So here in the day treatment program in Washtenaw, we have students after they do the career assessments, they have the opportunity to do our kitchen project that you'll hear more about, or our trades program. And then we have a whole repertoire of options that they can do online as well. We have quarterly family engagement events, and we operate through a trauma awareness lens. So we understand and we work closely with CMH and our partners here in the day treatment program that if students have triggers, we're all talking about it beforehand about what we can do and what our approach is going to be, which is different for every single kid because everyone has different types of trauma. And we want to make sure that we're setting them up for success. So this slide I'm not really going to go over because I basically just explained it all about utilizing the risk assessments and making sure that that's incorporated in how we function and how we deliver the program model. On this slide, I know it's small. If you want to copy, I'm happy to share it. But every new student that comes in, after we look at their assessment, we develop a treatment plan, but it's based on the service planning guide. So we address all of the needs that they may have. Again, going back to the iceberg analogy, we know that there's a lot of things that might be happening at home, and we want to set them up for success. So we go over all these potential barriers, and we create those as our foundation or target points in their treatment plan of what we want to address. This might surprise you, I don't know, but almost every student that comes in here does not have a birth certificate, does not have a social security card. And these students, we have a goal for 100% of our youth to obtain those vital documents so they are set up for success. And for some, it's been a real bear to tackle because their names don't match, their parents have lost all their information. So we're really proud that we're able to target 100% success rate for obtaining those vital documents while they're in a day treatment program. So we also really focus on leadership and advocacy. So here in Washtenaw, we are the Wolf Pack. So students work really hard to earn their level to become part of the Wolf Pack. When they earn Wolf Pack based on their points and based on their attendance and behavior, then they earn an incentive and they get a special sweatshirt. They get recognized during the level up ceremony, and they get invited to special opportunities to meet with Kevin or meet with other leaders in the community, expand their network. We've had students meet with politicians. We've had them meet with guest speakers and law enforcement, which has just been a really great opportunity for them to develop that leadership opportunity. We also have leadership retreats and camps, taking kids. We had a men's retreat, taking a group of boys this past summer to a local park. They did fishing and team building. We've also taken girls for a retreat in northern Michigan for a girls' development weekend. We have also we've taken a group of students to Costa Rica 2 times in partnership with Michigan State University, which is completely life-changing for these young people who've never been out of their home communities. We've been to the Grand Canyon. That's a picture of one of our students on the left there in the Grand Canyon. You guys, this is life-changing stuff, really exciting stuff. We've taken them to camps, and the picture on the right is that girls' trip to Traverse City that I was mentioning. So every month we have a career of the month. So we will visit a career related to the career of the month. That picture on the slide is when they went to the U of M. They got to see the medical helicopter and tour and hear about leaders in the industry. But this exposure is so important because it allows the youth to see firsthand what it's like in that work environment, what the people are like, and then they all of a sudden can be like, wow, I can do this too. And then it motivates them to re-engage with school, and it kind of connects all of their motives on their like in their treatment plan. Our mentoring programs, we haven't launched them here yet in Ann Arbor, but we are excited. We wanted to get all the fundamentals in place first, but this is going to be our next kind of thing to tackle. Peckham has provided nationally recognized mentoring programs in our other locations, and those are some of the standards. We do partner really closely with faith-based communities, colleges, businesses, and other agencies to recruit our mentors. But the research is you can't ignore the impact a mentor can have on the life of the youth that we're working with. So we are really excited to roll this out, hopefully this year. Give backs. We every month our students help plan a community give back. This is a picture of our students at the Ronald McDonald House. If we have students that know or have a family member maybe who is dealing with illness, that student will talk to the peers and say, hey, what about if we did something to help sick kids or help the families of sick kids? Or we've had youth that were really I don't know, feeling compelled to do something for a lot of their peers that are teen parents, that they don't have enough diapers. So they would lead projects of how to give back to the community. Now, there's so much involved with the reason we do these give backs. These are not community service. This is not Peckham saying, you need to do this. This is them wanting to impact the community. So if this does something to their dopamine hits in their brain, to actually view themselves as doing something positive. And this is new for a lot of our youth. They've never done this before. So they also start viewing themselves in a different light, like, wow, I can make a difference. And wow, that felt really good to help somebody. So it might on the surface sound like, oh, that's nice, that's sweet to do a give back, but there's so many deeper layers of the importance of doing these types of events with our students. So I mentioned that we're strength-based. Some other examples of that is we have everyone in the department, everyone in the day treatment is handing out U-Rock cards to recognize youth when they're doing great things. The U-Rock cards can be turned in for fun things that the kids are into, like hot chips. I don't know. We ask the kids what they want in like in the store, and then they cash those in for those. We have level recognition, like I said, during our level up ceremony, the family good news contacts, and I would love to invite anyone on the call to our annual awards hosted at our headquarters in Lansing. We recognize outstanding youth every year, and I think we had two from Washtenaw County this year. It's a big event, and it's really emotional and beautiful. You guys should all experience it. But we do celebrate every milestone. We celebrate kids' birthdays. A lot of these kids have never had a birthday cake before. So it's the little things. We want them to feel important and valued because they are. A little bit more about CBI, again, supported by evidence-based, delivered from the University of Cincinnati. Those are a little bit more about the number of skills that the curriculum offers and the frequency in which it's delivered, twice a week and 1 hour per session with individual coaching. Our Trades Academy, offered here at the day treatment program, will allow our students to earn an OSHA certification. We also have Peckham has developed a broad introduction to all the trades so they can gain the basic understanding and just fundamental skills so they know if they want to pursue an apprenticeship. We work really closely with the Greater Michigan Construction Academy, Michigan Works, so we can help be a liaison to transition them if they find like that career is a good choice for them. Peckham ourselves, we do not offer the apprenticeships, but we definitely link them to those opportunities in the community. We've combined our trades program with community initiatives. In Lansing, we had our trade students work with the city to build garden sheds, and then those were placed all over the city in their community gardens. And we worked with Habitat for Humanity to build ramps for folks who become wheelchair bound. So those community crossover opportunities are really great. And if anyone on the call knows of any in Washtenaw, I would love to know because we're really trying to focus on those opportunities. Our kitchen project, we partner with the National Restaurant Association Education Foundation. So our students, when they come to the Washtenaw Day Treatment, our Career Academy, they have the option to do the trades or the kitchen, like culinary and customer service, or the online certifications. Through the kitchen project, they'll get their Serve Safe, Customer Service Gold, and go through the Restaurant Ready certification process through the Kessler Foundation. So our students we love it. We love it because they're baking yummy things and we get to sample, but they're learning customer service skills as well. So they're able to be placed in local hospitals, colleges, and universities. One of the fun things our students actually designed was they wanted to make something for the Humane Society. So they developed their own brand that they called My Favorite Furry Face Dog and Cat Treats. So we have those available. We are really proud of that. Finding a kind of a unique opportunity for kids to still do something for a career that they love through the culinary program. So our students, once they complete the phase 1 of our program, all those things I just talked about, then they're able to go into a work experience. Once they've shown that they are reliable, credible, and can handle some stressful situations in an appropriate way, we'll place them as the employer of record into a community employment local site. So we have some really incredible partners here in Washtenaw County. Washtenaw County has really embraced our students, and we're so grateful for that. So our students will have a 6 to 12 week work experience depending on where they're at with their court probation. And it's really tailored to their industry recognized credential and what they want to do in their future. Here's a sample of the phases. So you can see that phase 1, exploring, and is a longer period of time. Phase 2 is meant to be pretty quick. Let's just make sure they have everything ready to go before they get their work experience. And then phase 3 is when they start their work evaluation and work experience. So we do a 30-day evaluation and a 60-day. There's a lot of incentives connected to that. And then the final phase is helping them transition. So they'll go back to their home school or wherever the next transition placement is for them. Sometimes it's Job Corps, sometimes it's with Michigan Rehab Services. And then we have the things for the leadership group. I put a slide in here about our residential program just as an FYI. We do not have this in Washtenaw County, but this is what our house looks like in Ingham County, ages for girls age 12 to 17. It's a 6 to 11 month program. We also have Embers, which is starting in the new year here in the day treatment in Washtenaw. Embers is a program that was designed in partnership with Michigan State University and a court psychiatrist from Ingham County's court. It was designed because in Ingham County, they have something called Phoenix Court for girls who've been human trafficked, and they needed services that were going to support these girls in their recovery. So they asked Peckham to work with this group to create this program model, and it's going to be coming to Washtenaw County in January for girls who've had human traffic experience or have any type of sexual trauma. There's 12 sessions through this group, and we really focus on the skills that are going to help them self-regulate and help them cope with the triggers that they may experience. We do that through art, through yoga, and through journaling. We also do drumming through that as well. So we've been operating Embers for about 5 years, and the outcomes are just amazing. It also offers an alumni opportunity for girls to come back once they've completed to help mentor and support new girls. We found that what's interesting is a lot of these girls never realize that this is an experience that other girls have experienced as well. So I see those balloons. Um, and then I already spoke about our transformative travel. There's some of our outcomes from last year. I'm just going to skip over some of the feedback. We love our partners with the court, with our probation officers. Regular communication is really important. Those are some of the employers and agencies that we work with. Look at that. And then I'll wrap it up. But thank you so much. And I'll put my contact information in the chat. So if you have any questions about Peckham and our services, you can have that.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, both Kevin and Sarah. And I'd like to say that we're going to segue now to your questions. Please submit them in the chat using the chat function at the bottom. Melanie McIntosh from the League Juvenile Justice Advocacy Group has been monitoring chat and will pose the questions, and then Kevin and Sarah, as appropriate, can respond. Unmute, Melanie, you have to unmute yourself. Thank you.
Okay, the first question is how many beds are available at the Washtenaw County Youth Center? And what is the occupancy level? How many on average are youth from Washtenaw County?
Yeah, well, I sometimes the kids from Washtenaw County here, it's a seasonal. We say it's a seasonal census. Often we have more kids in the summer than we do in the winter. So this year, right now, we have 18 kids in the facility. 9 of them are Washtenaw County. 9 of them are from other counties. So, yeah, we're usually hovering between 15 and 20 kids, and we can only staff 20 beds at this time. If I'm able to make a few more hires, I could get up to almost 30, but what I would say is just we're staffing basically what we can at this point. So average length of stay for kids is about 2.5 weeks from our own county. So not a long duration, but even that number skewed a little bit. I'm going to try to answer this as quick as possible. There are some kids awaiting placement, and so they skew those numbers. The average kids are here in less than a week normally. But then we do have kids, again, that are here waiting months and months for a treatment bed. So there's that.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, we're getting a lot of questions now. I have to scroll back up. Here's a question, good morning. Will this DHS executive summary be available for public view? And if so, how can we access it?
From what I understand, it will be released to the public. I don't believe the 70 pages of standards will be. I think there will be an executive summary from all 3 of the committees. From what I understand, it should be by the end of the year, should be released. And I would imagine you'd be able to get it on the MDHHS site. When I have my hands on it, what I can do is send it over to the league. That way it can be shared with everyone on the email list.
That'd be great. Are the Youth Career Academy participants here in Washtenaw County living at home, or are they in residential programs or other places?
Yeah, sorry that we should have made that distinction. One of the reasons why we went and created a day treatment was to get some of the kids that were sitting in detention eligible for other community-based programs. So the kids that are in the academy are at home, living at home. We are picking them up every day. We're feeding them a couple meals at the program, dropping them off. And so, yeah, the kids are at home. They are not living here in the facility.
For the mentor element, can mentorship relationships extend beyond the youth's participation in the Youth Career Academy?
Yes, ideally, we have our mentor matches commit to a full year of mentorship. But we found that once that relationship's established, because we take a long time at the front end to make sure it's a good match, will last longer than a year.
Okay. And perhaps you said this, but in how many locations do you, Peckham, operate in Michigan?
Currently, we're in 3, Ingham, Genesee, and Washtenaw.
Okay.
And looking to expand possibly in another one, from what I understand. So maybe Sarah will announce that next year. The one thing from the slides, and by the way, Sarah, thank you for going through it. That was amazing. that I didn't notice was when we do place kids in internships, it is a paid internship. So, which is one of the challenges with getting Social Security cards and birth certificates and setting up bank accounts can be challenging without some of those vital docs. So, but yeah, once kids are placed, we do pay them.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that even after a student is off probation, Peckham's like we're still providing services. Like right now, one of our first completers, we're still taking him to like help get him like a job interview or supporting him. So it's really great that it doesn't have to be a hard stop because they're going to need support even after. But it shows that they feel like they get support in our day treatment program because they come back and ask for help.
That's great. Well, I think that's all the questions so far. And
We
if you
might ask if people, we have a few more minutes, though, if anyone has more questions to go ahead and write them in chat. And I'd like to just mention that this video of this learning session will be posted on the League of Women Voters Washtenaw County website. There's a menu that's called Videos and Podcasts that you should go to. It may take a couple of weeks for editing and final posting of this learning session to occur, but that's where you can go to look for sharing this or viewing it again yourself if you so wish. This was really deep and great learning experience. Thank you, Kevin and Sarah, for both the effectiveness of your slides and the depth of the information. I have to say that when policy change happens, as happened in 2023 in Michigan, I mean, this was really a massive undertaking to have the transformative policy in law. But that doesn't get it done. It falls to people like Sarah and Kevin to make that implementation happen. And Kevin, I appreciated your remarks that there's other things you wish were moving faster. And, we share that as advocates for the juvenile justice system reform. But we are glad that you're involved and that you're writing HERD and struggling to nurture this system change forward. Thank you a lot for doing that.
Susan,
So, yes.
I
Jane.
have a question written to me privately, and as an educator, I feel it's really important. This question is from an attendance coordinator, and this person wishes to know how we can all collaborate to help get the word out that chronic absenteeism could possibly contribute to an encounter with the juvenile system. Is there something we can do to be proactive and work in the schools to avoid encounters?
Well, you know what? It's very appropriate that our court administrator is on the call. I know they do a lot of work with that, Catherine. Are you able to take that question? I think that's more an appropriate question for you and all the great work you all do with absenteeism.
Yeah, we do spend quite a bit of time in the schools. Thanks, Kevin. And Jessica Ashmore and Stacia Zellner oversee that. Many of you might know Stacia's name. She's been involved with the schools in many capacities for many years, and so has Jessica. Jessica's been phenomenal in developing programming. We have probation officers that are now called juvenile caseworkers that are involved in the schools. They're assigned different districts predominantly. Unfortunately, we recently lost someone, and so again, we're in a staffing shortage, which is a common occurrence that all of us experience in this System. But we essentially look at the big school districts such as Lincoln and Ypsilanti. We base it on the referrals that we get. And sometimes we get extensive referrals from certain school districts, and others don't refer as frequently as one would think they would given the population and the needs of the population. So I think that, yes, and that's true, Sarah. Jenna is on here. Sorry, Jenna. Jenna's with the ISD and does an outstanding job with the school as well. So, but yes, in answer to your question, that we have a lot of programming. We can certainly send it through to Jane or Susan so that they can disseminate it to those rather than taking a lot of your time on this particular webinar, since I know that this was scheduled for something else. But we do have programming. We have a lot of kids that come to our attention through the school, through parents. We have an inquiry call system where parents will call and say, I can't get my kid to go to school. What do I need to do? And they're given referrals that way. We work a lot with even the prosecutor's office will bring to our attention information that kids are having issues in the school, haven't attended in years in some instances, and consequently could easily be leading themselves into the criminal end, the juvenile end of our system with terms of delinquency. So we really do take a very prophylactic approach to try and make sure that the kids in many respects do not come further into the system if at all possible. And so, like I said, everything that's available in our system is available for the kids that are not attending, that are considered under chronic absenteeism. So we have a behavioral treatment program. We've done some of the information for you all before. That's why I said I can make sure it's done in writing. But we have a behavioral health treatment program that has a lot of different opportunities. I believed I saw Deb on the call when I first started who does telling it, and kids that are in, yeah, they're, hi. Kids that are essentially coming to our attention through truancy are available for her fantastic program. We have a barbering and entrepreneurial program that kids that have chronic absenteeism are also qualified for. The way that the new legislation that you all supported was crafted, it allowed kids who were at risk of coming into the system to be entitled to a lot of the child care funded services, which then essentially opened up all of our services for them. Before we really couldn't, and that wasn't something that we all didn't know needed to be done. It was just that it couldn't be funded. So now that we have that funding source, we're able to literally make them available for anything. What we normally see is that I don't want to say what percentage because I don't know off the top of my head, but the majority of our kids coming in on a multitude of other types of issues or actual crimes are not attending school on a regular basis. So they too are getting that attention that is needed in terms of following up with their school counselors. We do have counseling available through the CMH. We've had a contract for years with Judy Thurman and others. We have a whole wraparound aspect to the contract that allows us to work with the families. As you know, chronic absenteeism is related to a lot of underlying issues. We see things of substance use in the family, unemployment, instability, food instability, childcare issues, lack of transportation, all of those things. And although traditionally in many counties, DHS and DHHS has a prevention unit that can provide a lot of that. Unfortunately, there sometimes is more need than even they're able to handle. So our juvenile caseworkers act very frequently as prevention workers as well, looking at what the overall aspects of the family are. So when you see a kid in a chronic absenteeism situation, it really needs to be something that's triaged appropriately and given the right services in place. So, but like I said, as we started with IPSI, we have Lincoln, we're in Saline, we're in Dexter. Our workers go frequently and speak to the schools themselves just to get an idea of what's going on. As you know, sometimes there's issues around suicide prevention and things like that with some of our teens, especially, that we need to be aware of. And so we are very much in tune with what's going on with the school districts. It is not something that's easily solvable. Just so you know, we also have the Student Advocacy Center that we work with very closely that has a contract, and they have several of our kids in their programming. Oh, there's Colleen. Hi. I didn't even see you, and I mentioned you. So, and Colleen, if you have anything that you can add, I'm sure you do, but in terms of the numbers, they fluctuate. It depends. They can be there helping the kids make sure they're getting their IEPs, making sure that they're not being excluded from schools before they've been given due process.
So
They're,
we'll be wrapping up in about a minute.
well, see, he should have never turned it over to me, Susan, because I'll keep babbling. But we can provide again an update for you so that you can forward that on to your members. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Can I add something real quick?
Very quick. Yes.
With attendance. So the WISD has recently hired an attendance coordinator who is looking at absenteeism, and he is currently doing kind of needs assessment and understanding the community. So hopefully that will help with that absenteeism as well.
And Jenna Blair, you're with?
The WISD.
Thank you.
very
And
quick.
Melanie, back to you. Are there any final comments that you want to share with everyone? You unmute, Melanie.
There's just the last word is just a plug, but if you'd like to write holiday cards for kiddos in the out of home placement this year, please feel free to join us. And there is a link in the chat room to do that.
All right.
One last question that I noticed, and I'm not sure, maybe you already read this, Melanie. Will the DHHS executive summary be available for public view? And if so, how can we access it? That's from Belinda.
Yep, I'll share
was-
that. I'll share that when it comes out. I don't expect all the details from the committees, but it will be an executive summary. So I'll share it with this group. Hopefully, we'll see it sooner than later. It's been a long year and a half.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody, especially to Kevin and to Sarah for your presentation. For those of you that have joined us as participants and the range of expertise you also bring to this learning seminar. Thank you, Melanie McIntosh, for your assistance with the chat questions. Thank you, Jane, for your anchoring host today. Thank you, Susan Ashmore, for your participation and research behind the League of Women Voters Juvenile Justice Advocacy Group. And to everybody who's a participant, we're glad you were here today. You can learn more about the League's Juvenile Justice Advocacy team if you wish by emailing justice@LWV-Voters, the letters LWV-Washtenaw.org. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.